Started here with the July 17th Finance and Personnel Committee meeting.
We got it.
Number one on the agenda is public comment. We'll start with Grace Mullen. Name and address, please, then, when you get to the microphone.
Grace Mullen, 35 Centennial, down the street, Hanover. And I brought copies from everyone because I taught for a long time, and there are verbal learners and there are visual learners, auditory learners. I wanted to be sure, because I think I've got some cool ideas that will help. I've lived here for 10 years, and things have gotten better and better since I've been here with the borough and the representatives, and, you know, I think it's kind of cool. Everyone's been very supportive, from AJ to the mayor, and I'm sort of a professional volunteer, do a lot of things with that. I do hear, I've had, ever since I've been here, there's been the complaints about not being able to communicate with their representatives or with the government. In fact, for some reason, I don't know where they got my email. Well, it's not hard to get my email. I give it to everyone. I got 2 requests today to find out how they could get junk from the storm removed from their yards, which I took care of, but I don't know. But communication is definitely a problem. I have 3 suggestions. I'll be really quick. Can we, and I've done this before, I think it's Eric Mann gave me a map of the borough, and I put it out, and we put it up in the Hanover Area Council of Churches. People don't even know which ward they're in, much less who represents them. We could make one, it would be easy to do, because they did it for me before. Put one in the library, put one in the post office, and then what I'd like to do is put your council members' pictures and contact information on them. You know, an email address or something, so that people would know who they're even supposed to be talking to. People come into the borough all the time with problems, and they grump at the poor, Margie's poor people about things that should have been handled through the representative. Anyway, that's one idea I have. The other thing I think we could do with very little cost to the borough is hold a meet and greet function with the, I never know what to call you, ward councilmen, whatever, representatives, important people, twice a year. You could do it. I'm sure Pastor Mike, right down here at the First Church, he's glad to let us use his building. You could get donations easily. You can go to Giant Weiss, they'd be glad to give a couple, fruit trays, vegetable trays. Giant always gives me water for everything. The cost would be in the mailings to educate the people, to let the people in the ward know that what they're going. No, the first turnout would be poor. Communication in Hanover is tough. I found out the best place to do it is through Dutch Country. And don't ask me, I'm just telling you, it is. But I think this would really help if people had a chance. Then the third thing, and I'll be really quick, is that we've got to get our young people have some sort of interest in government. They don't all. Many need service hours. They're calling me all the time to get volunteer hours or service hours of some sort. We can start getting, we can invite them to these meet and greet things. All we have to do is contact the schools, and you just go up personally. I've done it. You talk to the little lady at the desk. She gives you the correct leader to follow. Get the government teachers to make it a service credit. They all need service credit. They get service credit if they go to the borough meetings and, write a note on what's happening. I just think these are 3 ways you could just start getting people to start, grumbling and start being productive. More than just, I've tried to tell everyone to come and sit here. That doesn't work so well. But I've got a few people coming. But that would help if they got to know the people that they're dealing with. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on public comment, Mr. Riston. Name and address.
My name is Isaac Riston. That is ISAACRISTON, and I live at 36 West Hanover Street. The agenda item I'm looking to make comment on is on 5C, Amendment to Rental Registration Ordinance. Short, I support this ordinance unequivocally and with no suggested changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riston.
That was short and sweet.
Okay. Mr. Holt? Name and address?
Good evening, sir. Robert Holt, P.O. Box 1131, Hanover. I'm in the 3rd Ward. Sir, this is, I don't know what other committee to bring this to, but there needs to be a public hearing on the $3.1 million you voted to spend on renovating a building that at one point was described as turnkey, ready to go, and it needs maybe some paint. There should be a public hearing on something that big. And there was no public discussion at any of the meetings. There were ample opportunities to discuss, including at times when I brought up the project and discussed some aspects. And the committee let me stand here uninformed, and it's your fault, about the scope. And nobody understood the scope. Not even everybody on this council understood the scope. They voted for it, or they were asked to vote for it. Wanted public hearing. We deserve a public hearing. On the theme of construction, I find it kind of annoying that the public library is going to spend, was able to find grant money to paint a mural in the building, which doesn't even belong to them, actually. And they can't find money to cover their own deficits. So I would ask you to vote no. That's just to send a message that we're not the money pit that everybody thinks we have been to cover the unending deficits that have continued for years, on top of paying for the building and the improvements it needs, including the $500,000 in HVAC improvements, that up to $500,000 that are needed. And I am going to ask you again, I see on the agenda you're going to improve alcohol permits, and I'm going to ask you again to consider a serious conversation about addressing open drinking on the streets. You've got a problem, and you don't even have to watch the police blotter to see it. And put an ordinance in, an open container ordinance that says you can't drink on the streets unrestrained. That if you're going to have to, if you want to drink your alcohol, that's fine. There's places to do it. The PCLOB provides for that, and it's unnecessary, and it's not safe for the community. And from past history, not everybody steps up and assumes responsibility for the damages that occur from unrestrained and improper drinking. And I appreciate your time. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Thank you, Mr. Holt. Mr. Becker, name and address, please.
Good evening, Art Becker, 529 Carlisle Street, Hanover. As you know, I represent numerous landlords, tenants, and borough taxpayers who have an interest in the proposed registration ordinance. First, we note that the proposed ordinance does not state the amount of the registration fees. Once again, we object to moving forward without knowing this cost. It's unfair for those advocating this ordinance to ask for everyone's support when we don't know the amount of the registration fees. Is it going to be $10, $50, $100? Is the borough going to receive a couple thousand a year, tens of thousands, 100, 150,000? I think it makes a difference. I think that we need to talk about that. You need to know that, and the taxpayers need to know it before you vote on this. I think the apportionment of fees does not appear to be fair. It looks like from the ordinance, the registration is per building. So if you have one building with one unit, you pay the same fee as one building with 20 units. That doesn't appear to be fair to me. Next, if a landlord has the same tenant year after year, which happens a lot with seniors, there are people that have lived in the same apartments for 5, 10, 15 years even. Why should they have to pay a yearly registration fee? The same person's been living there for 5 or 10 years, and ultimately, landlords pass this on to tenants, so it's punitive, especially for seniors on a fixed income who will ultimately be responsible for reimbursing landlords for these costs. And finally, once again, moving forward without knowing the cost to implement or have a plan to implement, I think is inappropriate. I think you could do this with a portal. I think you could create a portal on your website and tell landlords you can register for free at a very minimal cost. Or are you saying we're going to hire 2 or 3 people to sift through thousands of these forms that are going to be submitted to the borough and manually type this in online? And you need full-time people throughout the year to do that. So which way is this going to go, or a combination? So as a result, depending upon the registration fee, I'm concerned that the borough may be making a profit from this. We don't know, because we don't know the registration fees. We don't know how much they're going to ultimately need to pay staff to do this. But I don't believe implementing an ordinance to make a profit is legal. But tonight, I'm asking you to consider amending the proposed ordinance to include the following: eliminate the fee for online registration, create a portal. Let landlords do this by implementing or putting this information in your website. They do it on their own time, doesn't cost you anything except you have to set the portal up. This will reduce, and maybe if it catches on and almost all or all landlords do this, I guess they're not all going to, but over time, eventually they will, it might eliminate your costs, or there'll be a bare minimum. Also, under the existing ordinance, a landlord gives a tenant a form to fill out to send back to the borough to let them know their names and their addresses, how many people are living there. Why not, when the landlord gives the new tenant a form, give them a form to say, hey, if you want to get your place inspected, if there's something about your apartment that doesn't look right. Remember, our first responders came here and told us again and again, there's serious problems out there that tenants don't know what to do. Why don't we require landlords to give new tenants a form that says, hey, fill out this form, take it to the borough, and ask for a free inspection? Why not do that? Why not incorporate that as part of this process? And make sure they let them know it's a free inspection. And then allow the public to know the results of implementing this ordinance. I think it's only fair that we do all know, without a right-to-know request, the number of residential rental units in the borough. We don't know. Mr. Miller didn't know. Nobody knows. It could be 3,000, 3,500. It could be as many as 4,600. That's a big difference when you talk about implementing this and requiring all this paperwork. I think we should know the names and addresses, the business addresses of compliant landlords. Tenants should be able to go on your website and say, I'm looking to rent a place in the borough, and I'm looking at this address. Go online and see if that landlord is compliant with registering. I think we need to know the names and addresses of the landlords who are not compliant on your website. It should be public record. Tenants should know that. We should know the number of times that the ordinance is enforced throughout the year. There needs to be more transparency in this process. You all need to know that as you move forward to monitor the success or the need to change this ordinance, but hopefully it would be the success. I think we should know the number of free inspections that tenants, if you did follow my lead and give tenants a form, they say, hey, I want a free inspection. How many times is that happening? And how many times are landlords cited for code violations for these free inspections? I think we should have a database that reflects that. If landlords are not complying with the existing registration ordinance, which obviously is free, they're certainly not going to comply with one that requires a fee. So if the borough creates an online portal to encourage landlords to register, I think this might reduce or almost eliminate your costs. I'd ask you to consider that moving forward, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Okay, moving on to number 2 on the agenda, executive session. Solicitor?
Borough Council met this evening from 6:30 to 7 o'clock in executive session involving privileged matters under Section 708A4 and 5 of the Sunshine Act, specifically relating to 33 and 34 Frederick Street.
Thank you, sir. No presentations this evening. Moving on to consent agenda, I'd be looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes, motion passes. Moving on to finance and personnel and administration. A, the library mural, which was in our emails and packets that we have. You can feel free to talk.
Okay. So last month, I brought to you the concept sketch for the mural to go in the children's library. And this month in your packet is actually the final draft. I think it looks really great, much more fleshed out than the concept art. So I just wanted to bring that to you. Any questions about the mural? Anything I need to add or anything before we move on?
Talk a little bit about the programming that goes along with it.
Sure. So we're also, and along with the mural installation, we're going to run some program that's like a Meet the Artist kind of a program. So the artist will be available while he's working for folks to come in and talk to him about the process, talk to him about some of the images in the mural, why he chose them, his idea, his work, that kind of thing. And then along with that, we will have like a make a mini mural kind of a program. So kiddos can come in, we'll give them little like 2x2 canvases. They can paint their favorite thing about their community, their favorite thing about Hanover. We'll compile them and we'll include them in their own little mini mural, again, in the children's library in the program room.
Okay, any other questions? Let me read this to you guys. We're approving the
I have-
grant application.
I have one question, if I may. It's
Yes,
it's
Councilman
sort of a
Moul.
technical question. The mural itself is going to be painted on some sort of a substrate, not directly on the building.
We can do either one. We can put it right on the wall, or I've talked to the artist and we can get like big pieces of some kind of a, canvas or a lumber
I
to put on the wall.
Just as a building owner and manager, and Mr. Kress, I'd appreciate your insight on this, but I think we'd be better served with it on a separate substrate.
It's easier if you have to repaint the wall.
Correct, and it's portable.
Okay.
Minor detail, but could be a major detail in the future.
Yeah, that's easy to.
Okay, we'll be looking for a motion to approve the grant application.
I'd move.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. We already did discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Carries. The B, which is the Mass Notification Communication Services, which was in our packet. This is, I think everybody knows what this service is. Is there any questions? Okay. Be looking for a motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Are we good? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we're down to C, amendment to the rental registration ordinance. Anybody?
Mr. Chairman, as much as he's able, would you like him to answer any of the questions that have been posed here?
I think we need to stick to see if anybody up here has any questions first, if we could, please.
No.
I mean, this was in our packet. You guys should have read through it. I would assume you did. Is there any questions for Chris?
Do you have an idea what you think the registration fee would be?
We're going to respectfully request $35 per unit.
Per unit.
And, yeah, and clarify that it's per unit, not, if a person has a building with 10 units, it would be $35 per unit, not building.
It would be per, yes, ma'am, it would be per unit.
Because this is going to be an online system, correct?
It will be an online system.
'Cause we're doing
We are
permits all
already,
like
we're
that.
already attempting to upgrade our code software platform and work on that. We also have redone the registration form to make it easier and more accessible, as it were, for the property owners. And that will also be available online as well. So those forms right now are with legal counsel for review. So we've been moving forward on this to amend the current ordinance.
Will the property owners get a notification each year that it's time, so that it's not like a surprise or?
They will, and we also have a public relations campaign that we're putting together to notify everybody, not only just social media and, of course, the borough website and the newsletter, but there'll be some advertisements that will go along with it, postings that will go along with it, and we will ask our other public safety partners to also help us get the word out.
I think that's very important, because what was very evident that a lot of times it isn't necessarily people avoiding the requirement, it's they
It's
didn't.
knowing about the requirement.
Didn't know about it.
Agreed.
So thank you.
As part of it, if an inspection is requested, we have a fee that could be to do an inspection.
We do. However, as stated in your memo that I provided to you in previous, this meeting, I'm sorry, this is not an inspection ordinance. This is
Correct.
for registration and updating our current registration ordinance. There is a fee that is already built into the fee schedule for a life safety inspection that is correct if requested. This is not what this ordinance is about.
What is that fee?
Understood.
$85.
I just wanted that
That fee has
clarified.
remained the same over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'd be looking for a motion, please.
Motion?
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Moving down to number 6, enhancement. You want to talk about this at all, or are we good?
Let's give you a 30-second on us. So,
Please.
Doss Alley is a project that we've been talking about actually for about the last 3 years, quite honestly. This is a
Please
CDBG.
clarify where Doss Alley is for everybody.
So Doss Alley is the alley we're talking about extending from Frederick Street to Exchange Place Alley, which is the alley to the rear corner of Plaza 34. Doss Alley is part of the 2018 streetscape plan that was prepared before I got here, actually, that envisioned a ring that would go around the borough that would help move pedestrian traffic around, try to separate a little bit from some of the vehicular traffic so that there weren't issues of safety and things like that. Also, certainly with the investments being made in the municipal facilities, creates an opportunity to kind of put the municipal facilities right on that hub so that they're accessible by people moving around. Again, CDBG funded, so this is entirely coming through York County through your allocation of community development block grant money. We met match 3 years ago, so we are in the clear at this point. And we opened bids on this this morning. And Shiloh Paving and Excavating is the apparent low bidder. They are at $189,060, which is significantly less than the CDBG money we have, so that's good. It's you know,
Is
that's
that including
certainly,
the stormwater underneath?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Eric, I only have one question. I wanted to get a hold of you earlier today,
sure.
but my day didn't pan out, okay?
Happens.
On your, okay, we're going to narrow Doss Alley.
Correct.
I'm with you. Now, where the police are supposed to park, I'm really confused about this, so you're going to have to clarify, okay? We're going to have less parking places, but we will have more for the police, and they will park toward the rear and take up most of that back alley, right?
Correct. The Exchange
Good.
Place Alley.
Okay, when they have to respond to either, I hate to say, a shooting or whatever, okay? I see a fenced area going around this. How, and the only way I see them leaving that area is in regards to Frederick Street with, okay,
that's not
then
true.
get me there, get me
There's a
there.
gate that would be installed across the back. The area that you talked about, Exchange Place Alley, there would be a retractable gate there that would be able
Oh,
to slide
okay,
open and
okay.
allow them free access to get out.
Yeah, it didn't show a retractable, and that's why I'm saying thank you.
It's just really hard to show all the gates. I wanted you guys to
Yeah.
kind of see the
Well, I
concept of
didn't get a
space.
chance to call you, and that really had me confounded. So we're gonna have retractable gates that they can
Retractable gates
get
on both
out?
sides.
Okay, thank you. I'm
Eric,
fine.
how many parking spaces is going to the police? And how many are we losing in the current parking?
6.
It looks like we're losing,
Yeah, I did
20
the math on it.
spots.
There's a net total of about 6 lost spaces. And the way I get to that number is you currently have a number of borough staff that are parking, for instance, the code vehicles are sitting in this lot. Code vehicles with a 33 project will move across the street and be parked over there, so that frees those up. There are already police vehicles parked in that area there, so they're kind of a net zero, and certainly there are borough staff vehicles that are in that area also that will be over at 33 as well. So it kind of is a
When you
give some,
say
get
over
some.
33,
Yeah,
where?
can you clarify?
Yeah, so to the rear of 33, so 33 has a garage in it, so code vehicles will be able to park in the garage. We also own spaces to the rear of the theater, the Hanover State Theater there. There's about 7 or 8 spaces that are back there that will be allocated for staff parking.
Where? Behind the theater.
Directly
So-
behind the theater to the other side of the alley.
So you're saying that we need to have the proposed brick wall as that far up? Can we?
Correct. And that was something that has been in part of the design process moved around some because certainly, we wanted to balance it out. We didn't want to take the public parking as much as we could, but we also were respectful that, if you remember, one of the original charges of this project was the police officers wanted a safe area. They wanted an area where they can get in and out of their vehicles without fear of an ambush. It's just sad, but that's the world we're in right now. And so for them to have an area that is a secure perimeter that they can get in and out of those vehicles was important to them. And so that was one of the design challenges we had, and it comes with a little bit of a compromise. But again, when you think about it, I would go out there now, there are police vehicles that are already sitting out there, some. I mean, not some of the marked, but there are some of the unmarked, some of their evidence vans and things like that that park in that lot. So we attempted to balance those out.
What about lighting? I don't see any lighting plan.
We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
So you're looking at some concepts. The site package that will go along with when this is the public safety facility will be part of that. That lighting will be addressed as part of that. Camera locations and things certainly are of importance to us as well, all those things. But Doss Alley, bringing this back again, Doss Alley is just a small little piece. It's just kind of the opening shot of this whole thing. And originally, Doss Alley was going to be wider and have a lot more things in it. But as we started to realize that we needed to kind of integrate it with what we were going to do at the public safety facility, we kind of scaled that back some. And what you saw in the numbers is we got really, really good numbers now. Because we kind of cut some of that extra stuff. It will come back in, but it will come back in when we're ready to look at 44 and say, okay, to Chuck's point, like, let's look at lighting, let's look at, where do we want landscaping, where do we want those things.
And all of the parking is at 90 degrees, not
It has to be
some other
because
degree
if you're not going
less.
to travel through that, you have
Right.
to be
So
able
it has
to
to
turn
be-
them. And so
Got
what
it.
we had to do was we had to slide about 5 to 6 feet towards Plaza 34's building
Right.
and take up some of that area. That right now is sort of it's a sidewalk is what it is right now.
When will
Yes.
that
Agreed.
project start?
I'm
When
sorry,
will
the
it
Doss
start?
Alley
Doss
project?
I think you need
Doss Alley project, next week, this will come to you for official approval and asking for a notice to proceed. We have some things to vet through the solicitor to make sure, they have all their bonds and insurances. It will happen this year, it has to. Our
I
CDBG
thought we had
money
money.
expires.
We have to use that money.
December 31st.
Great.
So we need to
Thanks.
get on this quickly to get it done.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll be looking for a motion, please.
So motion.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 7, we're moving on to Water Resources Department. I believe is pretty cut and dry. Do you want to discuss that? Bring everybody up to speed?
I think it's done.
That's Warehouse Gourmet.
think it's done on
That's
Friday.
to approve a utility right-of-way and easement. That's the borough-owned parking lot right there, and they upgraded their water service, so we just need to allow them to have access and install that utility work.
Right. Pretty cut and dry. It was in the packets. Anybody have any other questions about that one? Okay, looking for a motion?
Make a motion?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Drought contingency plan, did you want to talk about that, or?
I can. If you recall, the borough approved the safe field study on the water inventories for the borough. As part of that was a drought contingency plan update, and it covers all the new personnel, all the contact information. It covers the most up-to-date processes. It did a deep dive into, you know, the amounts in the reservoirs as compared to before. It compared to, you know, we have a where you call the level 1, you know, restrictions, you know, voluntary, things like that. It's not far off from the first one, but it's a little different. It kind of moves like a moving target with the summer and fall and spring. So that was all updated. So it's a more robust way of looking at it. And the important thing is it gives the borough the authority to enforce it.
Right.
And all that language, everything was updated.
Pretty cut and dry. Any other questions? Can I have a motion, please?
So motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Want to talk anything about GNS?
GNS Foods. It's a new warehouse and processing facility on Bletner Avenue. We are in the process of updating our pre-treatment parameters. EPA had that for quite a while, looking at it. It was a back and forth. So it had been a while since the borough had updated pre-treatment limits. So we've had GNS Foods want to get started. They were building, but we were kind of in that limbo area where we don't have approval from EPA for these discharge limits, but they want to get started so they can investigate their pre-treatment facility, see how it handles their waste, and in that interim, they're willing to haul all their discharge off-site. And part of that agreement is that we will not take that at wastewater, so they're gonna have to take it outside the borough till we figure out what the.
Solids.
Right, the,
Okay.
and in doing so, we have to have a temporary agreement to
Right.
do that, to make it legal.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Maines, do you want to talk about lead, or do you want to talk about lead?
I can. So this is just an update on the request last month to get the word out and make the public aware that we have this form online that you can register your service materials. At that time, with some adjustments, because we had some trial surveys in there, they took all that, cleaned it up. We had about 5 surveys completed, and we have thousands to complete. So when Eric brought that in front of the council and got the word out, we're now up to 170 as of this morning. 143 of those are copper. There's a few that are galvanized. We have had 3 that said that they had lead pipe in their service line. We verified it. When I look at the survey sheet and I see lead, I look at their address, I can pull up service cards, I can say, well, in 1955, they ran copper pipe, so you know, probably copper, but.
But we do go out and,
Correct.
irregardless of what they say, we go out and verify whatever the material is.
And that's the great thing about the work order system that we have now.
Right.
I can generate a work order, it goes to Dale, he can either go out there and verify the material, or he can reroute that work order to one of his people to.
So have we verified any lead service lines?
There is none. I mean, we are very, very confident that there's 0 on the borough side of the system, and we don't feel that there's any because the borough was so proactive back in even the early 60s, they were replacing a lot of that lead back then. I mean, like I said, I see,
I mean, that's great news. I just
Oh, yeah.
want us to be, if there's an issue there, I believe we need to be, you know, really on top of it, especially what we've learned in places like Michigan and so on and so forth. So thank God we haven't found anything yet, and if we have any suspicion, we're actively pursuing it.
right,
So-
and we had historic knowledge, and we documented the historic knowledge from previous supervisors and managers, so, and they can't recall any lead being in the borough. And
Okay.
I think Dale's crew found one and replaced it right away as soon as they found it, so I'm very confident there's none.
Well, if you find one, there's more than one, but
Yeah,
thank God you haven't found any. Okay,
All
good.
right, great, we appreciate that, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. Anybody have any reports?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I do a report from the governance committee.
Yep.
At our last meeting, we talked about the consistency in the committee meetings. And the first thing we talked about was public comment and the purposes of public comment. The first public comment purpose is to address items on the agenda. Second one might be rumors, clarifications, updates, that kind of thing. We're still talking about the format, how that would look, so we're going to continue to talk about that. But we would like committee members to, the first public comment would be anything on the agenda. The second public comment would be clarifications or rumor control or whatever.
Outstanding.
Then we also talked about consistency in the way the meeting is run, in that when you do a public comment, the public comment goes to the council, but the chair is the only person who thanks the person for the public comment. And as we did this evening, we did not engage. We did not ask further questions. We took the comment. But I think some of the comments made this evening will be taken up probably by some committees because they gave us some ideas, some great ideas. So we talked about the importance of a consistency in the meeting so that in the public comment section of the meeting, there's no engagement with the people who are talking. Now, if you want that, if you want the public to talk, that's not a committee meeting. That would be like a special meeting or, I don't know what you call it, task force meeting or special meeting. And so that's sort of the suggestion we're making to the committees, that they follow that format.
Sounds
Any
great to me.
questions?
Question for the good of the order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Do we have a activation time for HyperReach staff? When, I know we just.
January 1?
Yeah, it's a next
it
year
begins
thing?
January 1. So we are able to import all of our data from Civic Plus, because we just got Civic Plus last year.
Right.
Civic Plus they increased our contract pricing after execution of the contract, which was because they felt that they should charge us more because we own the water system in 3 other municipalities. At first, they wanted to charge us $5,000 more. We got them down to $1,600 annual fee. Now they want to charge us $2,000. We roughly only have 2 water notifications per year. HyperReach won't do that. They will accept that, as Code Red did, and did not have, a large price like that. I think what Civic Plus was doing was they were basing it on population of all the other municipalities. And that's how they do it, and that's just it. So HyperReach is a much more efficient service. And like I said, we have rights to our data from Civic Plus. So we can import all of that from them, instead of when we had Code Red, they wouldn't allow us to take our own data for our own telephone system. So that was a bit of a difficult thing. But this is a much better, more efficient system than the Civic Plus system, and we're guaranteed a fixed pricing of $9,450 annually for the next 4 years, which is lower now than Civic Plus.
I do have a procedural question.
Yeah.
Who and how does the Code Red or the notification, I know we get flushing, for fire hydrants, who implements or who designates when it is activated? I had a lot of people asking me about the July 4th water main break, water issues, and nobody got notification. At least that's what I was told.
There was no notification sent out.
So that's what I wanted. And I know it was a holiday and it was happening, but I didn't know, what is the protocol? There should have been some notification.
Well, there's three of us that know how to use the system. Lori, Valerie, and I. We all have laptops, and we could have initiated it from at home. We were not notified to do so.
Okay. So we'll just make sure somehow this new system might be like, open to an AJ or others that would have responsibility within their department to make a notification?
They would have to notify one of the three of us to do it, because it's something that, it's not exactly, well, maybe HyperReach is easier than the other
Okay.
systems that we've had, but it's a little bit involved, and they probably wouldn't like to have the responsibility of remembering how to do that.
Okay.
Well, and we want to have a consistent message or voice or whatever going out there, I would believe.
The Civic Plus also, we noticed that we had a borough notification that did go out. Lori had sent it. I think it was possibly for garbage collection.
Yeah.
Or no, it was for the 6 o'clock garbage collection
Right.
that went out. So Civic Plus was to have mapped the borough area only, and that was inaccurate. It went over the lines, went into Penn and the other townships. So the way I understand it, Civic Plus didn't create their own system. It's kind of, subcontracted somehow, and they bought it. HyperReach is more, they're on it.
So my question would be with the HyperReach of obviously, notification of trash within the borough, but public services like water and sewer, if there's an event that's outside of the borough, and then you had the event in McSherrystown where there's an area that got impacted. I wasn't impacted, but there were people that were impacted. Does it provide that level of flexibility to be able to say, this is the area, service area, this is who's getting?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
What about
Yes, it has
emergency
mapping.
updates on, say, weather? Is there any possibility of ever getting to that point?
We can do anything.
Case in point, I don't travel that often, but it seems like every time I do, I'm in an airport somewhere, and I get an Amber Alert about a 1978 Pinto. It's going to stand out. I mean, of course, my point being, I'm not anywhere near 17331. I'm standing looking out at the horrific storm yesterday afternoon in my backyard, watching I don't know what they were. No one has reported that yet, but watched a bunch of limbs taken off of my tree. It was surreal. And I think to myself, we're connected in one way, but we're not connected in another way. Here was a major impactful weather event that happened to a number of residents in our community, and none of us got any kind of an update. I mean, at least I didn't. Maybe I'm.
Well, I did, I got some sort of.
But if there's a possibility to do that, I would like us to explore that
Today,
fully.
we did put on, we did a Facebook message today. We did do an alert bar at the top of the website that is connected to the news flash for severe storm damage protocol through the Public Works Department and what citizens should do if they have power outages or tree limbs down or damages.
Good, okay. So we've got something.
Yeah, it was.
So it sounds like with the new software, we're going to be able to establish how it's going to be used or where we use it and the protocols on it. But,
We always did have that.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Chairman Graham, I will say that as a result of the storm, I don't know if AJ wants to say anything, but I saw them out late at night. I saw them early in the morning. And they were out cleaning up. I think there's still some cleanup to do, but I think they were really on it. In the pouring down rain, they were removing some big tree limbs from in front of my house. And the neighbors. It wasn't just me. It was me and the neighbors.
Yeah. Barb,
Not Chuck.
would you repeat
I have a
kindly
big pile.
what you said prior to what we just covered
Yes.
about public comment? Would you go over it one more time?
Sure. Basically, we're looking for consistency in the way the meeting is run. So the first
We're
public
waiting for
comment.
Consistency on what?
I'm sorry? Consistency in the way the meeting is run. The committee meeting, a committee meeting?
All meetings.
It's a committee meeting.
All meetings.
Well,
Or
we were talking
finance
about
and
committee meeting
council.
and this meeting, right.
You're talking about committees that were on enhancement, et cetera? You want it all run the same?
Well, we're really talking about public comment and how public comment should be consistent from one meeting to the next, be it workshop meeting, be it borough council meeting, or be it a committee meeting. So the first public comment is a comment that addresses items on the agenda, in case they want to, want to bring something to our attention on items that we're going to vote on. I mean, that's the purpose of the first public comment.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Then the
100%.
second public comment comes at the end of the meeting. That could be
Anything.
an update, a
final-
question,
the final
a rumor,
public
a
comment.
clarification, could be something you heard about coming going on later. So it's a little more random. The first was a little more specific. The second one would be a little more random. Am I right?
Well-
Carol, is that what we said?
Yes. Well, that's wonderful, but for people that are attending for the first time, they really don't know. They feel that they can come here and make a public comment, and that's all you're saying, public comment. And I'm thinking about all those people I would love to see come to these meetings, and to let them know that their public comment has to be addressed to the agenda,
The first one.
the first one. And then to give them a heads up that the second public comment they make can be on anything. And I think we should have a little something behind it so that they understand.
Sure.
Okay.
We're still discussing it,
This
but
is-
that's
this
a
is
really
a
good
committee
suggestion.
issue.
It could be on the
If we-
paper.
Well, no. I know it's
No, I agree
committee
with Tim.
issue, but I'm bringing something up here, Tim,
Yes, we agree with what
in
you're
which
saying.
the public, whoever comes, will understand when they can make their comment, okay? Because this is where we're getting a lot of rap, where they're saying, oh, well, they won't let us speak about what we want to speak on, okay? So if we simply lay it out for them, okay, that this is how it's done,
It could be on that sheet, the sheet that they sign up on. It could be right there on that sheet.
that's right. But also, we have, you don't want any response at all from council. You
No.
want them to
The chair's-
talk
the
to
chair's in
us,
charge of the
and we
meeting.
do not respond to them at all.
The chair's in charge of the meeting.
The what?
The chair is in charge of the meeting.
Okay.
The-
Well, I'm in disagreement.
Oh, we're still talking about it.
No,
You can
I have a
disagree.
right to speak, okay? I feel that a lot of times, they don't feel that we hear them. And they want us to have some type of response every once in a while. And it's only a one-sided affair. And they leave here and they don't hear, they bring up things that they don't rehear at another meeting, okay? So they have to know when to do this. But freedom of speech, I'm not for closing council off. I'm
not a
I'm
freedom
for
of speech
listening,
issue.
but
Okay,
I'm
hold
not
on.
for
We're getting
closing
way
council.
down a rabbit hole.
It's
Are
really
we?
not.
If you have anything else to discuss, we
No,
can bring
this
it up
is
at
what I'm
GMP.
discussing.
Okay, this is
Okay.
not the time or place for what you're trying to do. We're
Well,
trying to
we're
work
on
through a governance thing.
public comment.
I agree with what you're saying.
Uh-huh,
Okay, 100%.
okay.
We gotta let them know exactly what they need. That is a committee issue. Once we get, it's still not, we're not saying that that's exactly what we're doing. She was just bringing it up to say we're working on that.
And we're still talking about it.
So it's not a done issue, so
So you're
it'll still
gonna
be at
bring
the
it-
committee.
Okay, so I don't have to be exactly at that committee meeting if I can't be.
Correct.
So
But you
you
can
will then
stress the-
bring it back to us so that we hear it here.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
That's
In
how
all
committees
its
work.
glory,
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
problem.
gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, correspondence, oh, anything else, sorry, I apologize. Correspondence was in your packet. Move on to additional public comment. Mr. Riston, please. Once again, name and address.
Again, my name is Isaac Riston, that is ISAACRISTON at 36 West Hanover Street. Regarding public comment with governance, one of the comments I'd say to that, or at the very least, is consider not having people say their address when they speak, so it's recorded. They can write it down on a little piece of paper they give you, and then the secretary can confirm it. Now, it allows people to have the ability to speak without, allowing everyone to know exactly where they live, and then council can know, confirm, I think that makes sense. I know other Southwestern School District requires address for you to speak, but they don't have you say it on camera. I think that's something that we can consider here as well to allow people to speak. Second, with communication, I really urge, I know a lot of people know Representative Kate Klunk, so please talk to her. Something that local governments want to do throughout the state is to advertise ordinances on social media and not have to pay newspapers. But that's not getting anywhere in the House, so please talk to your local representatives and senators. That allows us as a government to spread communication easier. And again, not having to pay newspapers that no one reads for advertisements, I think would save us some money. So please do that. Lastly, had a 10-0 vote on advertising for the registration. That's great. You have 3 more votes. I would love to see 10-0 on that. As my council member Funk said in August of 2022, she does not want to see this take 6 or 7 months, and now we're at 2 years. Next year will be 2 years since that one comment about 6, 7 months. So I'm excited to see the ball move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Roaston. Mr. Becker?
Mark Becker, 529 Carlisle Street. So if you charge $35 per unit each year, and you have 4,600 residential rental properties in the borough, which is the high-end number that we've heard about, that will generate $161,000 per year. How can you justify the need for $161,000 a year if most landlords register online through a portal? I'm concerned that this is the profit that's not permitted. So what I'm asking you to do is reconsider this fee, especially for those that register online through a portal that doesn't require any time spent by any borough employees to enter this into the system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Mr. Holt?
Thank you. I appreciate your patience. Robert Holt, P.O. Box 1131. I do not give my street address for security reasons, and I wish council and the borough was as covetous of people's privacy and the need for protection as they are for their own. They don't seem to have any regard for that. But that's okay. We move on. It is July. It's the time when we know the borough staff and some of the council members are working on budget items for 2025. And we've heard no discussion, but I would like to think that there's going to be some discussion about major proposals that are going to be in the budget for 2025, rather than waiting till a September meeting that starts at 9 in the morning, or, you know, these truncated discussions in October and November where the public doesn't really get a chance for input. There should be some discussion now about what's going to be in the budget so the public can hear about it and maybe have some input. On this governance issue and public comment, you're at the brink of a slippery slope, and the law is clear. I've heard sometimes some of your own staff say, well, we don't keep transcripts verbatim of what's said in the meetings. That does not alleviate you of the responsibility to keep a record of what is discussed in meetings or to limit public comment. I'll grant you, you shouldn't be insulted. There's things that said that should have never been said. I grant you that, and there should be some respect for that. However, if you don't have the time or the patience to hear public comment, maybe it's time not to be on council anymore, because that's part of the job. And I just think it kind of comes with it. I think there also needs to be a point of order on the protocol, because it seems to have changed, that now you have to submit a piece of paper to the chairman if you're going to speak in the additional comment period. I don't know if that's required or not. Is that, sir?
That I don't know. I would prefer that to council.
But that seems to be a change of recent. You didn't need to. And I think there should not be a limit on people speaking only to things on the agenda, because some of these committees don't meet regularly every month. Sometimes it's erratic, and I just think, I've been to some of those meetings where the chairman has said at committee meeting, well, if it's not on the agenda, you can't speak to anything else. And I'm like, and you know what? Most people don't live served by Robert's Rules of Order. You know that. I mean, let's be practical and let's be real. And let's try to be human with each other and maybe have a discussion. And I think it's maybe good that there would be some give and take at committee meetings. You can't have it for the full council meeting, I understand that. But I just think there's got to be some medium place where you just are telling people, if it isn't on the agenda, you can't say anything. And the law's pretty clear, and I think there's more than just one person who will fight for it. Anyway, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. We do have someone online. Do you want to check with them?
Yeah, if you're joining us via Zoom, feel free to unmute yourself to address council.
Okay, moving on to number 11.
To move to adjourn?
All those in favor? All those in favor? Aye. Outstanding. Thank you, everyone.
I'm gonna talk with Grace. I like her.